But plays aside,
Yeah.
well, that NBA plays. The Raptors are coming to town.
That's right. So what do you want to see? Preseason game number 1, besides the must-win. Actually, I mean, what do you want to see?
If I'm being honest, dude, I don't really care about anything other than I want to see Maxime Reynaud and Nate Clifford and Keegan Murray doing awesome stuff. Because I'm trying to run through the whole thing. Like, if the Kings win by 30, it's a preseason game. It was nice to see, but it's a preseason game. Who cares? If Zach LaVine goes for 40, which, he's not going to play that much, but I'm just saying. All right, let's say he goes 9 for 9 in 20 minutes. Be like, wow, he looks really good. That'll be. These are all good things.
Okay.
But if I see Nate Clifford excel or Reynaud really against actual NBA competition doing awesome stuff, that's going to get me more excited than anything else.
All right, but I think knowing you, if the Kings, without even seeing the game, but tomorrow somehow they win by 30
You're
and
100% right.
actually look amazing.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Lose by 30 and look hideous.
Yes.
You're going to be down.
I will be. I will.
You'll kind of dismiss nice preseason.
Yes.
Save that for game 8.
Yes.
But
if they lose
and look bad.
Yeah, you're probably right. I got to be honest. I don't really have a defense for that. Yes, if they get blown out tonight at home by the Raptors, I'll probably find some way to say, if that happens on the road, that's fine. But if it happens at home, you got to protect it. However, there's also the game within the game. So if they do lose by 20 tomorrow, but the starters got 3 minutes and they play it like an NFL preseason game and Toronto's playing, I'll acknowledge that, of course.
But I mean, in all seriousness, I know you would like to see Maxime and Clifford look great, or play and look good.
Yes.
What if there was a combination of DeRozan, Sabonis, Levine, the main core for now, and they all look really good? That wouldn't. I don't even know if it needs to move the needle, but just would there be a sense of hey, that actually looked, that's maybe the best those three have looked together?
The problem is, and the reason why I'm handcuffed on a lot of this is not your typical Carmichael Dave negativity. It's that I don't believe they're going to be on the team at the end of the year.
Okay.
So if I see
but what if they're on the team till February? That's a good chunk of the year.
It is. And then we're going to be sitting here in February going, well, why'd you trade him? To me, it's I don't know, if we had a temp employee here and they were doing really well, but we knew they were going on to a bigger company. And it was wow, they're really great. And then part of me is well, let's be careful because I don't want to rely on these guys because they're about to leave.
Is it just because they're probably more pressing in the temp because in the reality they're all, not just hey, their careers end, but we know the fact 5 years on the Kings is a long time. People just don't last that long.
It's like dog years.
Yes.
Yeah.
De'Aaron was rare and he was going to break the record and then he didn't.
Yes.
And now it's Sabonis by months over Keegan, and then Malik. There's not a lot of long-time Kings here.
No, because it's an outpost, or at least historically has been. And by the way, these guys also played in the era of the Beam team, which is the best team we've had since the early 2000s, and still they're turning over all over the place.
And even if there's some good things on this team, it wouldn't shock me even if this season went well, whatever that means to someone.
Yeah.
If Scott Perry doesn't change it too, just because he wants long, sustained, and I would think even if this is a good year, it doesn't feel like they're on that path of a long, sustaining run right now.
No, it doesn't. And and that's the thing. So I do not see a world where Zach LaVine is on this team. The only way I see Zach LaVine being on this team next year is if they literally cannot trade him, which by the way is a possibility, but flat out can't. They're in a weird spot right now because there's a fine line between saying Zach LaVine sucks and he doesn't suck. He's a wonderful player, and our experience with him, he seems like a really good dude. It's nothing personal. Zach LaVine's contract is a lot for a team that is not going to almost certainly do a lot. So how do you Scott Perry and Doug Christie can't be well, we're going to enjoy Zach while we can. But honestly, we need to get him off this team because it's really handcuffing anything we do for the future, and he's not a part of it. But that's the truth. That's how the franchise is thinking right now, and they're going to do everything they can to move Zach LaVine for anything other than more longer-term money coming back. I honest to God believe if they could fit it in the cap, this is going to sound like hyperbole, and it isn't. If there was a team that could absorb a $50 million or whatever it is contract, I think they would trade Zach LaVine for a second-round pick. I truly, honest to God, believe they would.
Do you really?
100%.
Wow.
100% I believe.
Because of the flexibility?
Absolutely. Because that money would allow them to do a bunch of things. That would allow them to absorb other contracts for draft picks in the future. That would allow them to make trades and bring in more. It is becoming very clear over the last year that other than, the Wembanyama type talent, the most valuable commodity in the NBA is cap room, because these teams are so unbelievably handcuffed. And we're seeing that teams are now willing to give up draft capital to achieve that cap room. If the Sacramento Kings could trade a LaVine and a DeRozan and get zilch back as far as player goes, well, guess what? You now have $72-ish million. There's so many things you could do with that. Now I'm thinking you could you could do crafts, but you could go to a team that has another player that is not part of their future, and maybe even as an expiring contract, but they want to get off that person right now. Oh, okay, cool. We'll take a future first. All right, so that's $20 million. Okay, well, we want to bring in these young players, so we're going to, like, for example, if the Kings had $70 million, and I'm just using this as an example, I would like to see what could they get from the Clippers for Paul George. Mm-hmm. And the Clippers would trade Paul George for next to nothing right now, I believe, as well.
The Sixers.
I'm sorry.
Are you saying Kawhi?
No. Talking about the Sixers, and I keep thinking PG.
Yeah, I didn't know which one.
Yeah, no. What could you get, either young player or draft capital? And again, when I say they would trade Zach LaVine for a second-round pick, that's what I'm talking about. Like when I say if they're able to trade LaVine or DeRozan, it's almost absolutely a guarantee that they're not going to get the basketball equivalent back or anything close. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it so hard to not only predict what this team's going to do, but also, like you said, if we see LaVine and DeRozan and Schroeder really mesh, I know where we're going to go with it, and it's the proper thing, which is, well, Scott Perry been saying all along, look at how the Bulls performed with those two. And when you extend that out and look at that Bulls team, I think there's another really interesting factor, which is Dennis Schroeder and Lonzo Ball, and I'm talking about that version of Lonzo Ball that wasn't completely healthy. I think ideally Lonzo Ball is probably a better point guard than Dennis Schroeder, but I think at that level they're fairly close. DeRozan's DeRozan, LaVine's LaVine. But they also had Nikola Vucevic at the time, and Vucevic is as Sabonis is a diet Jokic, Vucevic is a diet Sabonis. And putting Sabonis in that situation, I actually think the Kings have better surrounding personnel than the Bulls did at the time. So when you're looking for a blue sky, when you're looking for a bright spot, that's probably it. That the Bulls were very successful when Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine were playing together.
Yeah, their best version.
Their best version. Yeah. And I get it's in the Eastern Conference and whatever.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about defense, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of talk about an emphasis on defense. Will you be looking for that tomorrow?
Yeah, and then what does that look like in the version of what Doug has been saying and what Scott Perry has been saying? And so I still think this, to me, going into the year, is one of the more interesting, how do I describe it, push and pulls, because I think we've said this, Dave, that I hear Doug. I know that's what he wants, and pick up 94. I need guys to defend. Doesn't mean they're going to be the best on every sequence, but I still can't get behind the fact that their veterans, their highest paid, some of their best players are not as good defensive players. So it doesn't match the thought of we need to be better defensively, which is a correct statement.
Yes.
You either need to get or demand more from the guys that can score, or you're playing your defensive guys. And I don't know how they're going to reconcile that.
I don't think you can. I think it's great to say I want defense on both sides.
Yes.
But attention to defense is going to, I think first off, it will have peripheral improvements on your defense just by attention to detail. But there's two factors we don't really talk about. Number one, just because you're focused more on playing defense on both sides doesn't mean you're actually going to be hugely better at defense.
Right.
There's no guarantee because of the personnel. But secondly, something we don't talk about is this. I know they're going at it when it comes to cardio and their training camp, but let's say they do pick up all 94 feet. Let's say they do pick up on defense. Okay, So at what point does the gain you're getting, if any, on defense, at what point is that negated by your offensive go-to guys wilting at some point, and you're losing you're gaining some defense, but you're losing a lot more offense?
Yeah, that's why I wrote this question. I'd love your answer to this. So the Kings were last year, if we take their numbers last year, rated 7th as an offense, which is good.
Yes.
Top 7.
Yes.
Defensively, they're 22nd. Not so good. Which of those two, if they improved, would benefit the team more? Now, naturally, you go from 22 to a top 10. That's a huge jump. But
yes.
What if you went from 7 to like 2 on offense? And the reason I put this out there, I was thinking of Indiana. Here's my example from last year. They all of a sudden became number 1 pace, number 1. Like, they were as good as the Kings beam team offense was. Everyone's like, nobody's doing this like Sacramento. I think the Kings beam team last year would have rated like 14th, and it's already, the league has already caught and passed that group. So the Pacers were just outliers,
right?
And they were, I think, in the regular season, I want to say like 18th defensively. When you got to the playoffs, they were 3rd. So they ramped it up there. That's what matched their off. I mean, they were incredible in the playoffs. I don't know. So what just on spec, when you hear that, if they moved up from 7 to whatever number that is, or up from 22 to whatever number that is, now to your point, maybe if they went up to 15 on defense, does that drop them to 10 offensively or 12, or maybe it doesn't hurt? What would benefit them more?
Let's look at some numbers here.
Okay.
Your top 7
last year,
we'll arbitrarily use that for offensive rating.
Okay.
Number 7, the Sacramento Kings. Number 6, the Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay.
Number 5, the Knicks. Number 4, the Nuggets. Number 3, the Thunder. Number 2, the Celtics. Number 1, the Cavaliers.
All very good teams. The top 5, all very good.
Very good teams. The top 5 are your best teams pretty much in the NBA. By the way, the Kings and the Grizzlies were 48 and 34 last year. The Kings very much an outlier. Grizzlies above them, followed by the Timberwolves, the Pacers, and the Bucks.
Yeah. And the Pacers, I was saying, their pace was number 1, but yeah.
Well, they're the Pacers.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course they're going to be number 1. Here's where it gets interesting. Your defensive ratings. The Thunder, the Magic, the Clippers, the Celtics, the Rockets, the Timberwolves, the Warriors, the Cavs, the Heat, and the Pistons. Now, I would say...
It's only Team 9 wasn't a play... Or no, wait, the Heat were in as the 8th seed.
I would say that it seems like the higher concentration, though, of your best teams came with offensive rating. Not that defensive rating is bad, and oh, by the way...
Gosh, how good were the Thunder? I mean, really, how good were they last year?
Well... When you start reading some of the preseason stuff, and they're saying things like, the Thunder were the youngest team in NBA history to win the finals. Their rating was insane.
Back.
They're all back. Plus, even though he just had surgery, they're adding in Nikola Topic, who was a surefire lottery pick had he not had the knee injury. So you've just got that waiting there. Not to mention the fact that they're still at that phase where the older they get, they're just getting better. They've gotten over the hump. So now it's like, okay, obviously they're the odds-on favorites to win the whole thing, especially when you have massive players out in the Eastern Conference with the Celtics and with the Indiana Pacers. Who the hell is going to challenge them in the West other than really the Nuggets and maybe random team we're not talking about? Now they're asking the question with the Thunder. They're going, these guys going to be winning games into the 70s? Are we talking about and we've had these conversations before, but I would say this, the Thunder won 68 games last year.
Man.
And they were the youngest.
Right.
I would say this. I would say, here's my hyperbolic statement. Sports radio hyperbole. And I'm going to ask you to shoot it down. There is no team in NBA history that has ever been in a better overall position than the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are the youngest team to win the NBA Finals. They have locked up a number of their key players for at least the next 3 years. They also still have the highest box of draft picks of any team in the NBA, most of which are from other teams. Like, they're so ridiculously good at every facet of basketball, on the floor, off the floor. By the way, in case you were wondering, and I know you weren't, not only were they number one in defensive rating, they were number one in defensive rating by 3.3 points. The difference between second place, the Celtics, and all the way down is ridiculous when you talk about that gap. Number 3 in offensive rating, number 1 in defensive rating. It's insane. And their youth, and their cap situation, and their pick situation. I'm trying to go through the history of the NBA and find out, well, who would you put ahead of them?
I'm just thinking of one. Let me make sure I have this right. Uh-huh. Okay, I don't remember the details of this, how this even happened. So the only thing I could think of would be the late 70s, early 80s Lakers, because they had Kareem and they got Magic Johnson number 1. And then like 2 years later, they got James Worthy number 1.
Yeah.
So how were they? I don't know what they did. I'm sure they made some, but they were already champs. And you had the future greatest point guard at the time. You had the greatest big man.
Yeah.
And you got the number 1 pick, and it was James Worthy.
That's really where we're at, is we're talking about the early 80s.
Which that had that run of
Lakers and Celtics, really, when you think about it as well, where Red Auerbach, what was it? It was something about, was it the Knicks and a dance review that he made it. There's a story here about how Red Auerbach made a deal. I want to say it was with the guy that owned Madison Square Garden and the Knicks, and that Red would bring like a dancing troupe there in exchange for this dude agreeing to whatever jive trade they came up with, which allowed the Celtics to get the pick that turned into Larry Bird. There's a whole lore there.
Well, and even then, let's think about Boston, because I mean, how good they were, and then they also had Len Bias, which never.
Yeah,
but
that
like,
we will.
Those two teams were both so great, and they're getting high picks.
And I think the thing that really why I'm such an absolute, like, I'm not a Thunder fan, but I'm such a fan of what they're doing, because I believe that that's attainable here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not now, but you know.
Wasn't the Knicks?
Who was it?
It was a New York team.
Oh, was it Rochester? That's why I know it. Do you have the story in front of you?
Red Auerbach didn't trade for Bill Russell, but facilitated his acquisition. The Hawks used to select it. The deal is legendary because it was preceded by a supposed arrangement between Auerbach and the Rochester Royals involving the ice capades to dissuade them from drafting Russell.
That's right. It was Russell, not Bird.
Who they instead passed on for the number 1 pick.
To bring the ice capades, which made them a bit of money. Hey, more Kings lore.
They eventually got Russell.
Yeah, they did.
Yes, they did.
So who won that trade?
But you're right, and the fact that this is all being done in a bottom 3 market in the NBA it's a blueprint.
Yeah,
it's a blueprint for everybody else. So yeah, when I look at, and by the way, to answer your question, I truly think, weirdly enough, although I want this team to become more defensive, the answer I think to your question directly is it would actually, if they could jump 3 spots in offense versus 3 spots in defense, hell, let's call it 6 spots in defense. I think it actually suits them better to jump 3 spots, because now they're the number 4 offensive team in the league.
Yeah, and that means then Levine and DeRozan are thriving, and Monk and Murray and Schroeder and Sabonis, like they're their main top level guys. Just like, all right, this offense is a problem, and hopefully you're getting more out of them defensively, not just, hey, they're scoring 120 but giving up 125.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. As far as players having a career year, I can guarantee you right now, barring injury, I know he's going to have a career year without a doubt. And that's,
really?
Yeah, I would say this. I will put my job on it.
Okay,
that's how sure I am. Nate Clifford, 100% is going to have the best year of his NBA career this year, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You want a real answer, huh?
Best year of his career at the time.
Yeah, of course. I mean, tomato, potato, dude. Come on. Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine is in a really good spot right now for a number of reasons. I think ultimately, here's what I think, and I don't know this, and I could be wrong, and Zach LaVine could be listening right now going, you're an idiot. I don't think this. But here's my guess. I think Zach LaVine hears some of this stuff. I think he knows this team's not really going anywhere. I think Zach LaVine, coming from Orlando, coming from Chicago, I think Zach LaVine would love to feel what it's like to play for, a contender and a serious franchise. I really do. And I think he also probably knows through his agent or direct contact, Scott Perry's not a guy that doesn't shoot. By the way, he saw Scott Perry's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He saw what he said.
Yeah, they've talked about it.
I think Zach LaVine's not stupid. So I think Zach probably thinks not only do the Kings want to trade him, but he probably wouldn't mind either, depending on where he's going. What better way to facilitate that? Play really, 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 really well. Get on SportsCenter every night so that some GM's going to be like, yo, we need that.
Play well enough to where Kings fans are really upset for the talk of trading LaVine.
I'll go a step further and then we'll break. And I don't know if this is something that I'm making up in my head or could legitimately happen, but we know, Chris, listen up. We know he's got a rough contract. But what if he played so well that there's another owner somewhere in the NBA that looks at him and how he plays and tells his GM, screw it, I don't even care. Go out and get that guy, and on top of it, we'll give up some good value for that as well.
What if I counteract that with Zach LaVine plays out of his mind?
Yes.
Absolutely loved in Sacramento.
Yes.
It's like a new coming for his career.
Yes.
He talks to Scott Perry and says, you know what? I want to renegotiate my contract because I think that there's something here.
Yes. Now I'm wondering, are NBA players allowed to renegotiate their contracts? I don't think they are they?
I don't think so.
I don't think that's football, right? Okay, damn.
Didn't Rudy Gay do something?
There's something free agency. What if he plays so well that other GMs start? Here's the fun one. What if he plays so well that other GMs start calling about him, but our franchise management's like, no, we just got him. We like him. Keep him here. But we can't win with him. Don't care. I love Zach LaVine. Like, that's a real thing that could happen. How do I think Doug Christie will do in year one of the full-time job? I think Doug Christie has a chance to do really well as long as you don't count wins and losses. I think if Doug Christie is...
Isn't that how they're measured?
I think if he's measured purely on wins and losses, I think it's going to be a really bad year for Doug Christie.
He had a winning record last year in a trying, crazy year, trading away their best player.
No, I'm with you. But again, I don't think their trades are done. I think if you look at what he does based on the comings and goings of players, on top of the culture, on top of how players are interacting with defense and different things, I think he could have a very, very good first year. Remember, he's a rookie too. Yeah, a lot of rookies on this team. We keep saying Rayno and we keep saying Clifford. We don't talk about Doug Christie. Doug Christie's like the Blake Griffin. He technically was a rookie last year, but not really. So
technically,
should they have a Coach of the Year rookie of the year? No one's feeling that? Okay. We'll take a break. When we come back, what's on deck, brought to you by Trex Decking and Railing. We got playoffs, we got preseason, then we got crosstalk with Alan Stiles. And Celebrity Birthdays brought to you by Crumble Cookies. The final half hour of the program is next.
Malik Monk plays here.
Started left, goes right, steps back, launches the